Come back from the break, and welcome to our second and our final presentations of papers this afternoon. So we'll hear from two papers. My name is Marcus Vasca. I'm a librarian with the Knowledge Resource Service in Alberta, Canada, and also Vice President of the Southern Alberta Health Library Association. So I've put our land acknowledgement in the chat box there. We also have Ashley, our technical assistant, so who's there if you have any questions or so related to technical issues, she'll be happy to help you. Just a few reminders, closed captioning is once again available in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. The session is being recorded, and we also have a code of conduct, as well as the link to Padlet, which I believe will be coming up shortly. So this afternoon, as I mentioned, we will have two paper presenters, just a little bit of housekeeping. So each presentation will be 15 minutes in length, followed by 5 minutes for questions. And when there's 1 minute to go, you will hear once again the soothing sounds of the bell, and that indicates that there is 1 minute left. So our first paper presenters today will be Rachel Keiko and Mary Kate Finnegan, and they will be presenting on the building blocks for student learning, developing modular instruction during the time of COVID-19. And just a little bit of a bio intro. So Rachel is the health sciences librarian for Sacramento State University and has previously worked as a library manager in hospitals and a librarian in public, academic, and pharmaceutical libraries. And Mary Kate Finnegan is the science librarian at Sacramento State University, but is also a former health sciences librarian and enjoys weaving evidence-based concepts into instruction for all disciplines, and her favorite role is helping students develop their research search strategies. So over to you, Rachel and Mary Kate.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get started. All right, so as mentioned, my name is Rachel Keiko Stark, and I'm Health Sciences Librarian at Sacramento State. Thank you all for your attention.
I'm Mary Kate, Science Librarian at Sacramento State.
And we just want to take a moment to acknowledge that February is Black History Month, and we acknowledge that those who were forcibly taken to what is now called the United States of America, and we recognize that Black history does not start with slavery, happens every day, all year, all the time. And we also want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the indigenous peoples of the lands that we're on today. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in building relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and their cultures. So please take a quick moment, appreciate Black history, appreciate our indigenous peoples, and breathe, because I need to do that more often. Thank you so much for that moment. All right, let's get started. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to have a little bit of our background. We're going to have a quick description of what we did, what our outcomes are so far, and what we want to discuss for the future. Just as a quick note, the slides that are uploaded to the website include some information that might be a tad bit inaccurate because we had to upload them before classes started. So what you will see in this presentation today is much more accurate. So thank you for your patience. Right, so let's start with some background information for those of you who aren't from our area. So this is Sacramento State. We call it Sac State. It's part of the CSU system, so the California State University system. Our campus is located in the Central Valley of Northern California. We are a commuter campus, which means the vast majority of our students commute in. Our library is a very old building, tiny little budget, and has historically had a more traditional approach to library information and instructions. Our student body is very diverse. We have over 31,000 students currently enrolled in our spring semester. We are the fourth most diverse university in the Western United States, and we are constantly struggling for parking when we're on campus. Our faculty represent a wide range of ages, and we have a significant number of faculty who were surprisingly unfamiliar with a lot of the technology that is currently used in instruction. And our faculty were forced to distance teach, and I do mean forced, like actually had the provost had to say in a faculty senate meeting, You will teach this online, or we will find someone else who will do it for you. So they were dragged kicking and screaming. Not literally, of course. So we don't touch people during the times of COVID. All right, so when COVID hit, our campus closed. And I am personally grateful for our administration taking that bold step and moving ahead of the curve, which is great. The vast majority of our classes moved online. During the first semester, because we were uncertain of what was really happening, there was a lot of conflicting information, anything that could be moved online easily was done so. But of course, there's some things such as lab classes, physical art classes that can't be moved online. A really good way to think about this that I found really funny was one of our students was like, how do you expect me to fire ceramics at home? Like, what am I going to do? Put them in my Instapot? And that will stay with me for many years. Our campus did provide technology to students. This includes converting multiple parking garages to wireless zones so that students could drive into the parking garage and then access Wi-Fi. And then we also allowed students to check out numerous types of technology, such as laptops, keyboards, mouses, and also hotspots, although we had a limited number of those, of course, due to budget. So distance learning was a new concept to many of our faculty. We actually had faculty on our campus who had never even used our learning management system before. So that was quite a surprise to some of us, or at least to me. It was also surprisingly new for some of our students. Some of the students had not actually utilized a class or been in a class that had utilized the technology available to us. And as I mentioned before, many faculty extraordinarily resistant to online learning. I appreciate our faculty's dedication to our students, and I appreciate that many of them really, really love teaching in person, face-to-face. So that's an extra barrier to consider. It's not just a reluctance to try the technology, but it's also, I think, that person-to-person instruction and the joy that many faculty feel doing that. But we still needed to reach as many students as possible, as safely as possible. And this was something that we decided to do something about.
So what we did, with these conditions, we got to work. We thought about what digital learning objects that we had already created over the years, what we'd need to make now, and thought about our future direction. As Rachel mentioned, we operate on a shoestring budget. And the vast majority of our collection are physical items. So the shutdown was particularly hard on those disciplines that rely heavily on books. Luckily in the sciences, most of the students want journal articles. So to us, demonstrating how to navigate databases and develop search strategies shaped the direction we took with module content. This means many of the sources our students need were accessible if they knew where to look. As most of you probably experienced, within a matter of weeks, our entire community found itself working remotely. It was really shocking and sudden. Clinical and physical sciences are hardest disciplines to teach in a remote environment, and faculty had to really scramble to find ways to meet the learning needs of their students. So as everything shifted online, we determined to make as much asynchronous information available as possible, understanding that our students were dealing with issues including homeschooling children, sharing technology with others in the household, dealing with not perfect bandwidth, I've done that, and catching up on work at all hours to fit their busy schedules. Many of our students have also been really painfully impacted by the economic fallout of COVID. They're facing food scarcity and lack of ability to pay for basic necessities. SAC has a food pantry for its students, and it was always well used. Now many of our students are removed far from campus, additional burden of not having access to this resource. Finally, we also had students who depended on coming to campus to utilize technology and internet. Next slide. Many but not all faculty, as Rachel mentioned, are comfortable in the online environment. Translating clinical and bench work into remote lessons is a particular challenge. As mentioned about our students, faculty with school-age children also had to juggle their time spent on virtual education while working from home. Our faculty have done a really amazing job of meeting these challenges and have expressed support for access to asynchronous library instruction to supplement their courses. And many of our faculty, particularly in the health sciences, are thinking of switching to hybrid synchronous asynchronous, which aligns very well with our goals for the modules. So 3 of us, 1 health sciences librarian, 2 physical sciences librarians, looked at this idea with the goal to quickly assemble those resources that already existed and to create others that are crucial. We all approach instruction and design differently, and by combining our unique viewpoints so that students and faculty are exposed to different styles of instruction, we felt this would create a more engaging online environment. We chose to use the modality available to the faculty and students. So Sacramento State uses the Canvas learning management system. And to have library instruction at student and faculty fingertips, we wanted resources that were embeddable in Canvas. Students have enough online resources to navigate without asking them to bookmark many pages of tutorials and libguides. We focused on building search strategies, database navigation, writing and citing in the sciences for the first part of our modules. So we're not creating a single Canvas course that goes from A to Z, but rather a series of flexible modules that can be imported into courses as needed and easily adapted. We understand that many of our students participate in online learning via their mobile devices. It's important to meet the students where they are. We wanted these resources to be available at all times, interchangeable, knowing there's no one size fits all and different faculty will be interested in different modules. We wanted them to be easy for us to update as databases, standards, web page locations change, and we wanted it fully compatible with our Canvas platform. The conversation first started in person when it looked like we might be removed from campus, and then it transitioned to regular Zoom meetings where we discussed what we had and assigned who would make what. We looked at other courses in Canvas Commons. This is a crowdsourced database with modules available to other users. They're free to use with acknowledgement. We combed other libraries' web pages to see what content they promoted for our disciplines, and we also visited government and research institutions. We considered trends, both internal and external, what resources we're likely to keep over the next few years, what best practices and up-and-coming research is on the horizon, and we asked ourselves how we can best measure the use and impact that these were going to have to our campus community.
Ha, I'm unmuted. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of our incomes. Please excuse my technological stumbles. And I do mean so far, this is an ongoing project that we continue to add and modify. For those of you who have SciFinder or use PubMed, you might understand why we have to constantly update and modify. Lucky us. So this is an example of some of the modular aspects to what we've created. So we have like what we consider more basic introductions. So like, what are the types of communication? What does reading a scientific article look like? For some of our more entry-level students, and for great, hopefully great for reviewing as well. We have a module on developing search strategies, which can be then embedded within specific database modules should you choose to do that, or can just be ported out. And then we have various like websites and databases that we've used. Thanks to an update in Canvas, we now know that we actually have to create a separate module for every single web or database. So that's something we'll be working on. Whereas before you could select specific pages within each module. So this is an example of what we would include in like Web of Science, and other databases. And we try to keep very similar standards so that as students go through this, it's a little easier for them to appreciate and appreciate the structure and to understand what will be coming next. Of course, we want to look at the specifics that each database offers, but we're trying to give them an approach that will be somewhat familiar. I think one of the key things to remember too is that when a student is looking on their phone, Canvas is highly effective at enabling students to scroll through and adjust the size of the font and to utilize the native data that the phone supplies about making it readable to the person who uses the phone. I do not have an Android phone, but I understand it looks fabulous on an Android phone from some of my students. But this was one of the reasons why we were really particular about utilizing our LMS, because we have data supplied by our school that's what students are utilizing. So we don't necessarily want to overwhelm them with videos. We know that students appreciate one or two, but when it's all videos, not their favorite. So we do a combination of video, text, and then also still photos, which also helps us update these Canvas modules because, as we know, a database updates frequently. Lucky us. So right now we have 5 modules from within our multiple module overall course that just the science librarians have access to, that have been used and embedded by other people in their Canvas courses. We have about 300-ish enrolled students that we know of that are utilizing those modules, and we have 14 modules roughly that have been requested by faculty. So we will be working on those in the future.
So what is this going to look like over the next few years? Surveys are showing us that more students prefer the flexibility of online instruction. It's likely we're never going to return to things exactly as they were, and the need for asynchronous age are going to remain or increase in demand. We're putting an increased focus on marketing. How do we best get word out, especially in a time where we're all like sick of emails? We've considered the various benefits of using the school's news email, announcing the modules on the library webpage, asking for a few minutes at department meetings. We're of course hoping word of mouth remains positive. We're also considering what new content will be in demand as the schools consider adding new programs, and what other platforms we can use to make the modules more engaging. Content that's interactive and is created on stable sources that will be usable for some time. We're looking at UFlash Player, which recently rendered a lot of educational aids unusable. And then with the start of the spring semester, we're once again marketing these modules. On the screen, you'll see our selling points. It's driven by faculty requests for aiding instruction, reaching as many students as possible, hopefully a longer asset shelf life, familiar platform interface, and loadable right into courses.
So our assessment is still in development. We have a basic information literacy skills quiz that has been developed and is available for us to embed in our modules. However, it could use some updating, and we're also considering whether or not we should embed quizzes for specific databases to see if this form of instruction and online learning is heavily biased towards a certain approach to databases or a specific type of database. Faculty feedback has been solicited, mostly through nursing, public health, gerontology. They have been very happy to work with us in my experience. We would like to solicit student feedback, but we also understand and respect that students maybe don't want to take the time to participate in that. They have the option, and we make sure we put all of our information in there to contact us at any point. And I have had one student tell me that something was wrong, which I fixed, and I appreciated their notifying me of a mistypo or a mistake in typo that I had. So students can reach out to us. If we do move forward with student-based assessment, we will of course have to run it through the appropriate overheads and administrators and departments before we do so. So that's what's in our future. We want to say thank you and invite questions. Also, thank you so much to SlidesGo, Flat Icon, and Free Pick for these beautiful slides.
We've got a question. It looks like we have a question from Francis. So she's asking, do we plan on using the publisher provided training videos instead of creating videos yourself? For me, I worked on a SciFinder module, which has recently updated their platform. And I will include links to like SciFinder videos. I made our own for creating an account, and because you have to navigate our website and go in through a proxy to do so. So it's kind of a mix. We are trying to take advantage of things that already exist, but we also wanted sort of a uniform look to it. We wanted it to look branded, you know.
Yeah, I do not often use publisher provided training videos because I find that a lot of times they can be quite long. So I don't, my goal is no more than like 3.5 minutes for any video that I embed. That seems to be the consensus for a good amount of time. If I can find something that's shorter, then I will use that. And to be honest, I loathe making videos. I sound like Minnie Mouse, so it's not something that's really fun for me to do. So if I can find it, I will use it. It just needs to be the appropriate length.
Yeah, and I found when I create videos, I always say at the onset, welcome to this 2-minute video, because I know students want something shorter. They don't want to slog through a 20-minute video on anything. And I also include that in the written description next to it. People ought to know what they're getting in for before they click on the play button.
Yes, and I do try to double. So I'll have, I like to have a video and then also a short description of what's being shown, just in case we have students who don't want to use video or who maybe don't feel that a video is the best way for them to learn. So I think having that multimodality is very important. Thank you so much for the question, Francis. I appreciate it. Are there any others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Students and medical staff really have no time to spare.
When I was in hospitals, I did have a clinician tell me that they appreciated having voiceovers to listen to while they were driving, which made me kind of nervous because I'm like, if I'm describing things, are you watching the video while you're driving? But yes, that is very true.
Thank you, Emily. She points out she likes the idea of beginning the video with a disclaimer how long it's going to be.
Yeah, they might be driving. That's very scary. I mean, out where I live in the Bay Area of Northern California, like your driving is really just sitting. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, once you're actually moving, maybe don't watch a video. Okay, so any other thoughts, questions? We are going to continue to work on this, and we want to say thank you to all y'all whose videos and materials we've used. That's very, very nice. We appreciate them, and eventually we'd like to try to make these available on the campus common. Our main concern with that is if our faculty grab things from, say, PubMed 6 months ago, in which I talk about things like the cookie crumb trail that's no longer there, then when they give it to their students, it will not be current. So trying to find a way to make sure that people who use it understand it needs to be updated frequently is a barrier.
Monique is saying, was it just the two of us? And we had another wonderful librarian hired, and we miss her sorely. So there were 3 science librarians at Sac State that worked on these modules, and she provided a lot of content.
Yes, she was one of the first librarians to heavily utilize our Canvas LMS, and we miss her with her retirement. But we're happy she's, off doing hopefully fun stuff.
Camping.
All right, so we have 15 seconds. We want to make sure we leave plenty of time for the paper coming after us. Any last minute questions?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop
Perfect.
sharing.
Thanks very much, Rachel and Mary Kate. It was really interesting to hear of your experience with the modules. So thank you again. So with that being said, we'll then turn over to our final paper presentation of the conference. It's a joint presentation by Andrea Dupuy, Ashley Jane Leonard, and Catherine Tipple-Smith on rediscovering your library, adapting Library Month in the time of COVID-19. And so just a little bit of bio information. So Andrea is the Systems and Web Librarian with the Knowledge Resource Service, KRS. Ashley is a librarian also with KRS based at the Rocky View General Hospital in Calgary. And Catherine is team lead of KRS also with our unit. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Andrea, Ashley, and Catherine. I think you may be on mute if someone is.
I am on mute. Got those finicky little buttons on those headsets. Okay, so thank you so much, Marcus, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to Rediscover Your Library, Adapting Library Month in the time of COVID-19. So Andrea, Ashley, and myself are presenting on behalf of our full Library Month committee, which includes 2 other really wonderful KRS staff, Allison Pinches and Lori Mazie, who are unfortunately not here today. Before we actually get into the meat and potatoes, I would like to take just a moment to recognize that we are settlers, and we reside in the Treaty 7 and Treaty 6 regions of southern and central Alberta. Treaty 7 is the territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Treaty 6 is the territory of the Cree and the Saulteaux. Southern and central Alberta are also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta and a wealth of other First Nations and Inuit. So let me give you a little bit of context as to who we are here at KRS. So the Knowledge Resource Service provides a full range of library services to over 100,000 AHS staff and clinicians. We have 6 physical library sites which are located across the province of Alberta in 3 major cities, those being Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer. AHS is the sole health authority for the entire province of Alberta. So we serve all non-clinical and clinical staff in all hospitals, health centers, and AHS office buildings throughout the province. And we do that primarily virtually via centralized intake on our website. And we have a really fantastic team of over 25 library staff with a variety of roles. So this year, we shifted our usual Library Month celebrations to be 100% virtual through the creation of an online hub. That's what you see on the right of the screen right now. We updated the hub throughout the month, and it featured education sessions, a scavenger hunt, testimonials from clients, behind the scenes facts, some surveys, and staff profiles. So why celebrate Canadian Library Month? Well, it happens every October. For the past few years, KRS has participated in and used Library Month as a sort of fun promotional engagement event with our clients. And primarily this has been done in our physical library sites. It's taken a few forms, but there's typically some kind of drop-in education service. We have library tours. In the last 2 years at least, we've run a scavenger hunt, and that's primarily been facilitated through our in-person connections. And KRS sites have been closed for in-person services, and our team has been working entirely remotely and from home since our first lockdown here in Alberta, which was in March 2020. We really didn't want to let that promotional engagement piece of Canadian Library Month go to waste. So, we're not in our sites. It seems like it might be a good potential avenue, sort of just remind AHS staff about our services. It also timed in really well to our 3-year strategic planning cycle. We wanted to try and use it as a springboard for gathering user feedback so we could have that for our planning. So we had a bit of a challenge in that, how do we take those initiatives that we typically have in our in-person celebrations and translate them into the online environment and adapt it so that it's entirely online? And also, how do we really optimize our online events so that we can reach more people, get more traction, and get more of that all-important strategic planning feedback? First, the translating components of Library Month, staff meet and greets have been a key piece of our Library Month in the past. And with staff not in those sites, we sort of lose that literal face of KRS. So we thought, the next best way to try and remind clients that real people are on the other side of our service provision, like I am actually the person you're chatting with right now, was with staff profiles. We've actually never had staff profiles before, so it was new to us, and we had them prominently displayed on our hub. As mentioned, past few years we've had a scavenger hunt. Previously it was a sort of very structured Q&A format, a PDF document. We had it available on the website, but most often we would hand it out to people at the sites. We wanted some kind of interactive activity and sort of just ended up with a scavenger hunt again. We tried to make it slightly less cumbersome. We used an Easter egg style, so clients could, move through the website using clues, find hidden icons on the pages, and then fill out an online form. So at least there was no more writing answers in a fillable PDF or printing it and bringing it to us in person, so that hopefully was a bit easier on them. Drop-in education sessions and one-on-one orientation at our in-person events is also a really common component of our Library Month programming. We already have a fairly robust online education program. We've had one for quite some time, and this is because of our geographic size and reach. So we leaned on our knowledge from course development there and put together a variety of online sort of subject-specific synchronous sessions. And then we adjusted our registration calendar to feature those Library Month sessions, which we facilitated through Skype for Business. Next is ensuring reach across the organization, 1 day versus 1 month. 1 day is not enough. I think that's something that we've talked about with each year in our post-Library Month event debriefs. Are we really making the most of it with a single day? Even when we had them tied to our physical library sites, we found that, 1 day limited to our library's opening hours, in a healthcare organization as large as AHS does not allow for a significant number of staff to participate. And we also felt this was confounded a bit by moving it online. A significant portion of our clinical staff, do not have consistent access to a computer through a single shift. So, lengthening the amount of time that we have this up means that we have the potential to reach staff at any point, anywhere in the province during any shift, 24/7. Lastly, the Canadian Library Month theme was actually 1 card, 1 million possibilities. And well, our library sites are closed, clients are unable to borrow books, so the theme really didn't serve too much sort of our needs and was of little value. We still wanted to tie into Canadian Library Month, but we did go a bit off script, and we changed the theme to Rediscover Your Library. With COVID, so many of our clients had been redeployed to contact tracing, COVID testing, and other pandemic required roles. So we know that, many people were out of routine but they knew of us already. So we wanted the messaging to be, hey, we're still here, we're still working, and we have a lot to show you. And then lastly, it was really clear that all of this stuff that we were thinking of that was going to be online, we needed somewhere for these components to go. That was not the main KRS website. Adding all this extra content on the front and center there would have made that sort of main page super cluttered. So we decided we needed to develop a singular online hub. So, how did that process go for us to actually get to that point? By and large, it went as you see on the slide. We engaged with staff at KRS for ideas and feedback and to help us really with developing the content. We did this in some team meetings, through a discussion board, and then a lot of informal poking and prodding of our colleagues. And then we worked with AHS Organizational Communications to develop sort of an organizational-wide marketing plan. We built the hub and LibGuides, and then we really got to work spreading the word. The newsletters and the intranet feature that you see there, that came out of our work with AHS Organizational Communications. We developed scripted materials for KRS staff to use to communicate with clients. And we also developed just a library month signature to throw on the bottom of all our emails, and we used that for the month of October. Another thing we did was rely really heavily on our email distribution list. And so what did the hub look like once it was all put together? Well, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley so you can all find out.
Thanks, Catherine. So the hub is comprised of really three main areas, which were represented by three separate tabs. The main landing tab, which is what you can see here, was home to KRS staff profiles, our behind-the-scenes blurbs, library service statistics, and information that related to the scavenger hunt. And this space was also used to promote our practice area specific education sessions, as you can see, as well as one of our short staff surveys. This next slide gives an overview of our second tab, which housed our collection of 4 surveys that related to our strategic planning work. These surveys were very short in length and very quick to complete. They comprised of really 2 or 3 short questions in most cases. And as you can see, we were really hoping to get feedback relating to several different topics, such as KRS resources and services, the KRS website, our physical library spaces, and lastly, access relating to patient health information. And as well, this area provided interested AHS staff with the opportunity to join the KRS advisory team as a volunteer. This slide displays the third and final tab from our online library month hub. And as you can see, it displays kudos testimonials for KRS. The kudos that you can see here is a selection of feedback that was actually shared by AHS staff prior to the hub being launched. AHS staff also had the opportunity to add to this kudos tab and share what they loved about KRS services during the whole month of October. And lastly, as we finish up this portion of the presentation, this slide just gives you an overview of what the scavenger hunt looked like. And using the Easter egg hunt format that Catherine mentioned, this activity was designed to allow AHS staff to explore and to get familiar with the KRS website in what we hoped was a more fun and interactive way. Staff were prompted to follow the clues that you can see on your screen and to collect the 5 icons that are displayed. And with that, coffee vouchers were then offered to AHS staff that had the top 5 correctly submitted entries. And now Andrea is going to move on to talk about how our online hub fared and what we learned from the experience of planning and also moving to this online library month event.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. So how did it all go? Well, in light of all things COVID, it went pretty well. Understandably, we knew that a lot of our workforce's priorities had shifted to managing COVID, that so many of our staff workflows had changed with things like redeployments. We really didn't know how folks would respond. But, at the end of the day, we wanted to remind people that, we were still there to help and support them, especially through all these challenging times. So compared to our single day in-person events in past years, our online format gave us kind of the benefit of reaching staff outside of our library locations, which really was great. And although it's hard to, compare, we did get a high number of hub visits. Another positive was that we also had a good number of survey respondents and volunteers. They really provided us with some great input on our services. And, I'm just so grateful for their participation. You know, on the flip side, that the more specialized education sessions had small turnouts, but it was likely the case, we just didn't have sufficient communications with those particular stakeholder groups, kind of giving them enough time to kind of get involved and drum up that participation. But, also recognizing, there might just be limited bandwidth in the uptake of new skills. People are already having to deal with a lot of new learnings on their plate, during these times. So, yeah, that's a tough one. Lastly, the scavenger hunt that offered coffee card prizes didn't really garner too many participants, with some staff mentioning it was too time intensive. And we also did get some feedback from our own KRS staff indicating, maybe it would be more appropriate for the student or kind of public library crowds. So all in all, a short debrief after the event highlighted some important lessons for us to carry forward. So I think one of the biggest improvements for us was around just kind of general timelines, especially in getting staff involved in earlier stages. So providing marketing materials and guidance for staff was definitely key for us, but we also need to ensure that we're getting this out early enough for our staff to plan their outreach. And this is especially true for contacting stakeholder groups around the tailored education sessions. We did run into some limitations with our usual organizational-wide communication avenues. As a general rule, they don't promote specific health month, weeks, or days for different groups across the organization. There would just be too many. Nor during COVID did they really want any large-scale email distributions outside of the main COVID messaging. But we were able to promote our Rediscover Your Library theme in 2 major organizational-wide newsletters and some intranet feature pieces. So we did quickly realize that we needed to kind of amp these up and supplement with some additional targeted emails that we sent out about halfway through the month to a subset of our users. So definitely remember to make use of as many communication avenues that you might have at your disposal, because every little bit kind of helps. And I think for us in future years, this will definitely include some physical marketing materials, as so many of our clinicians really see this information in their day-to-day, maybe a little bit more so than emails that tend to get lost in the noise. So, I mean, it was tough with a small team trying to pull the pieces together. So in future years, we really want to incorporate some activities that possibly could be delegated to additional staff, as well as diversifying, perhaps, and increasing the size of our planning committee, and just generally encouraging more KRS staff participation. Lastly, pick a theme. It helped to kind of create that cohesive messaging and branding across all of the various channels. So to sum up our experience, I think we'll likely continue to use and maintain an online hub for future Library Month events, while combining this with some of our more traditional on-site activities. We'll definitely also, offer that programming, broader than a single day. Definitely throughout the month was, I think, a little bit more accessible for clinical staff to participate. And then lastly, encouraging you to use your lessons learned. So drawing on lessons learned from year to year for us is helpful, though this year we certainly had to pivot and adopt some new strategies. We'll definitely be bringing these learnings forward with us, just to build better online events in the future. So that really wraps up our presentation, but we'd happy to answer any questions that you have for us, or we'd love to hear any successes from any of you that may have had to also pivot to some online promotional events.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Catherine, Ashley, and Andrea. So indeed, we do have a few moments for questions. So if anyone wants to use the chat box, please, to ask any questions. There's a comment that they, Mary Kate, really liked the way you created the surveys.
Thanks, Mary Kate. All the thanks should go to Andrea and her survey talent on those.
So there's a question that's just come in. How did you plan the online scavenger hunt?
How did we plan the online scavenger hunt?
Yeah, I think that was, it's sort of like, it was Easter egg style. So I knew that I wanted to kind of create some like a consistent, like maybe iconography that I could plant across the website, and to make it just a little bit easier, we sort of, my intent was to really kind of direct people to the places on our website that would maybe help them the most. So the hints, we should say, were really directed to guide people to those places we thought would kind of help them. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, maybe there was 5 little Easter eggs that we dropped across the site and gave some folks some hints on where those would be.
We did actually hear back from a couple of the people who had taken it, and one that they actually really appreciated the effort that went in, and learned new things, which was the whole point of it, right? Was to get them out into the website and go to places that we don't think people are hitting as often as they maybe should. So it was nice to get that feedback.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? I know we're nearing the end of our hour, but just any final questions for Catherine, Ashley, or Andrea? So I don't see any more come in. So thank you again to all 3 of you, and to our previous presenters in the session, Rachel and Mary Kate. And so this then concludes our paper presentations for the conference. Certainly a lot of diverse topics or so that were discussed. So we will shortly be transitioning into our final 2 lightning talk presentations, as well as the vendor raffle. So hopefully everyone will be able to join us online, and I can see the session's been posted there. So thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.